It had all been going well for Sir Keir Starmer, and when the news of the October the 7th Hamas attack emerged, he was initially praised for his response. Then he said this on LBC Radio.
Israel does have that right to defend herself, and Hamas bears responsibility.
A siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water? Sir Keir?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right. It is an ongoing situation. Obviously, everything should be done within international law.
Appearing to suggest Israel had the right to withhold aid, he later said his comments related to a different question. More than 20 Labour councillors quit in response. Hundreds of others are furious he hasn't called for a ceasefire, and among them is Sadiq Khan. Joining me now is former Labour MP Dame Louise Ellman. Louise served as MP for Liverpool Riverside between 1997 and 2019 and is former chair of the Jewish Labour movement. She stepped down ahead of the 2019 general election because she said she couldn't risk Jeremy Corbyn becoming Prime Minister, calling him not fit to serve. She said under his leadership, anti-Semitism had become mainstream in the party. She later rejoined Labour when Sir Keir Starmer took over, saying she was confident he was someone in whom British Jews could have trust. Louise, welcome. Lovely to see you again. Long time no see. Louise, do you still have that opinion? Do you still trust Keir Starmer?
Yes, I do. And I think the Jewish community, as well as the British people, have every reason to trust Keir Starmer. He's taken on very difficult situations. He's done what's right. And I think that's one of the reasons that he's now being challenged in his views on the tragedy that's unfolding in Israel and Gaza. And being leader isn't easy. You have to do what's right. And not everybody likes it.
And so do you approve of his overall handling of the conflict so far? And what do you think about the handling of the government of the conflict? Are we on the right side, do you think, of the arguments on this?
Yes, I think the government are on the right side. I think it's very important that people recognise that Hamas is a terrorist group. It's committing its atrocities in Israel, but it's linked with Iran and it's ready to commit atrocities elsewhere around the world. And some occasion, indeed, it has already done so. And it's right to declare that Israel has, well, I would say, not just a right, but actually a duty to protect its own citizens. And doing that can become very difficult indeed and involve some very difficult choices and some very tragic situations. So
Louise, what do you think, talking about Hamas being a terrorist organisation, what's your opinion of how the BBC have handled the war as it's so far, and particularly the attack on the hospital in Gaza?
Well, I can see that the BBC doesn't want to admit that Hamas are terrorists. So they now use the phrase that it's an organisation designated terrorist by governments, including our own, and maybe that's as close as they want to get to it. On the issue of the hospital in Gaza, I think the BBC leapt to the view, as many others did, that something awful has happened. So it must be Israel's fault. There was never any evidence for that. And they only started to retreat a bit from that, and evidence that, in fact, it was an Islamic jihad shell that had caused the problem. And really, they seemed quite reluctant to do it. So I think it was a lapse. And it was just falling into that trap of always wanting to believe the worst about Israel.
Yeah, I agree. So, Louise, the Labour Party's come a long way in a very short space of time. When you think back to what it was like, anti-Semitism was growing in the party, as you said yourself, and the position the Labour Party was in 2019, it's just 4 years ago. But Jeremy Corbyn wasn't just one person. There were many people, both in the wider party and in Westminster, who supported his views. Do you think it's possible for Keir Starmer to change the views of the Labour wider party and MPs to such a degree that you can trust the party moving forward? I mean, he is one man, and he is having, we've got Labour councillors resigning this week, we've got Labour MPs on resignation watch who are on the front bench. It hasn't all gone away, has it, Louise? What Jeremy Corbyn fed off, it's still there, and the individuals he fed off are still there in the party.
Well, they will never all go away. I wish they would, but they won't all go away. And the Labour Party's always been a mixture of people. But what happened when Jeremy Corbyn was leader was that the hard left and the people who backed them became dominant in the Labour Party, and they became the loudest voice. So we had extremist policies that alienated the British people, who could just never be implemented. The party nationally became dominated by anti-Semitism, and local Labour parties started to be run by people who were promoting anti-Semitism, and drove me out, and similar things happened to other people. Now, Keir Starmer hasn't been able to get rid of all of that, but what he has done is to stop those people having any influence. He's changed the culture of the Labour Party, and many of those perpetrators have either been expelled or have removed themselves.
Yeah, but those that are still there, though, Louise, the minute Keir falls over something, the minute he stumbles, they will seize upon that opportunity. They won't now because they think he's stronger, but the minute he's weak, you and I both know, the minute he is weakened, they will dive in, and they will still, and the test of Keir Starmer will be how he handles it then, when he's a weaker leader than he is today. Do you think he should be calling for a ceasefire, as the Labour councillors and others are, and Sadiq Khan is asking?
No, I don't. If you recognise that Hamas is a terrorist organisation, that Israel suffered a massacre of people on one day, more than any single day since the Holocaust, from an avowedly terrorist organisation that wants to destroy all Jews and destroy anyone who isn't Islamist like them, you have to recognise the need to do something about it. And this isn't just about words. So you can't embark on action to deal with Hamas, to try to eliminate or reduce their military infrastructure, and then run away when it becomes very difficult. So no, there shouldn't be a ceasefire. What I think should happen is that some pauses perhaps should be made so that more humanitarian aid can get through to support people on the ground in Gaza. But there has to be that action against Hamas to dismantle its terrorist infrastructure. And it's just wrong to move away, and because the going's getting tough, and to say, no, we shouldn't be doing that anymore.
Louise, thank you. I've just been thinking while you were talking, when was the first time I was ever in a TV interview with you? And I think it was 25 years ago. So lovely to see you. I think it was that we were in the Northwest. And I think I was standing in Hazel Grove at the time. And I think we were on a politics programme. But lovely to see you again, Louise.
Northwest.
That's it, yeah. I hope life's treating you well, and lovely to see you. And thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.